everybody, how's it going? Styled Man coming back at you, and today I'm going to do a bit of a special video. Different video, because usually I do pickup videos, right? But this video I'm going to talk about 6 reasons that Blu-ray is better than digital. And when I say digital, I mean streaming like Netflix, Hulu, Amazon, Instant Video, Prime Video, and stuff like Vudu, where you purchase movies to either download or stream online. Most people stream them, or even on Amazon, where you can go on there and buy digital movies on there as well. So that's what I mean by streaming. Most people nowadays use some kind of streaming service. I personally have Amazon Prime Instant Video, Netflix, and Hulu. So that's 3 things that I'm paying for right now. So it's not like I'm anti-streaming. I also do streaming, but I'm still a physical media guy first and foremost, and I want to explain why, because sometimes I get asked that question. Sometimes my fans, my friends, other people, my family sometimes even will ask me, why do you keep buying that stuff? Why don't you just do streaming? Why don't you just watch stuff online or through the streaming video apps and whatnot? And I try to explain it, and they just don't seem to get it, or, care to get it really. But whatever the case, I just want this out there. I want to explain as best as possible with 6 reasons here why I believe that Blu-ray in particular is better for film buffs and better for viewing movies in general than digital streaming is. The first reason number 1, is higher quality. It shouldn't be too difficult to come to the conclusion or to admit that, yeah, Blu-ray is a much higher quality than anything you're going to find when it comes to HD streaming content. As a matter of fact, there's some 4K streaming content that probably still doesn't look as good as a Blu-ray. And I don't mean a 4K Blu-ray, I mean a regular Blu-ray. So, yeah, the reason behind that, by the way, the reason for those who don't know, is because these companies, Vudu, Netflix, Amazon, all these big companies that are serving these digital video, that are serving the digital video to a variety of different customers, right? They all have to service the common denominator. If they're not servicing the common denominator, they're not going to make as much money as they could be making. Because if you do not focus primarily on the common consumer, the most common consumer out there, then you're going to lose them as a customer because they'll go somewhere else. If you're not giving them the attention that they need and giving them the service that they need, they're going to go get that service somewhere else. So that's why they focus primarily on those customers. And the common denominator in terms of these customers, you're looking at somebody who has a 25 megabit per second download. And it's not to say that 25 megabit per second isn't good enough. It really isn't, quite frankly. But it's not to say that that isn't sufficient for most people's needs, right? Because it is sufficient for most people's needs. However, 25 megabit per second simply doesn't cut it if you're trying to download and stream high quality HD content at the same quality as a Blu-ray. It simply does not. It is absolutely impossible, because you are talking about a Blu-ray with a bit rate in the 35 to often between like 25 and 35 megabit per second bit rate. That's the bit rate on a Blu-ray. So if you've got a bit rate that high, there's no way. Because when you're streaming something, you're downloading it. When you're streaming a video, you are downloading it. If you're streaming a movie, you are downloading it. So when you are downloading it, if you don't have a high enough download speed, you're not going to download it fast enough, and you're just going to keep getting buffering and buffering and buffering. And a lot of people still have that issue. You tell me that you don't have issues with buffering, and I will call you a freaking liar to your face, because you know you're lying. Everyone has buffering issues. Everyone. And the big reason for that is, if you have a 25 megabit per second download speed, right? If that's your speed, if that's what you're paying for, then that's what you're going to get at best. Usually you won't even get that. And even if, as you're watching a movie, you're getting like the highest possible speed from your cable company, there's no way that it will download fast enough to be able to stream to you without buffering. And what these companies like Amazon, Vudu, and whatnot, what they want to do, what their core goal is to service you a high enough quality video that most people won't complain about the fact that they're paying for an HD copy of something, and they're not really getting a full HD copy of it. So what they do is they cut corners here and there. It's not really 1080p, or the bit rate isn't as high as it would be on a Blu-ray. And you can tell when they do this, when really high speed action things happen. It doesn't even have to be like an action movie. This happened when I was watching one of those Oz. It was Oz the Great and Powerful. When I was watching Oz the Great and Powerful with the family, and there was this scene where a whole bunch of like butterfly things just kind of erupts on screen, and they just start fluttering all over the place. Macro blocking out the... It was just a big block of a mess of crap, and it did not look good. It just looked like a big block of color that couldn't really be defined, because like the bit rate just wasn't good enough. If the bit rate is low enough, you're going to have those times when there are certain scenes that just show up blurry, or they're macro blocked. And what macro blocking means is like it shows up as like a block of color or something like that, because there's so much going on screen that it cannot, like physically with the bit rate that it has, it cannot actually display everything that's happening on screen. So that's what I'm talking about. Those are the kind of things that most people probably won't recognize or complain about, but they cut the corners on the quality in terms of the bit rate and whatnot on digital copies, to the point where a movie on a Blu-ray is going to be usually between 25 and 50 gigabytes in size. Or is that right? Yeah, gigabytes. But if you download and stream a movie that is quote-unquote high def, chances are it's somewhere between 1 and 5 gigabytes in size. So you're talking about a difference of 1 to 5 gigabytes and 25 to 50 gigabytes. There's no question that one of these is a much higher quality than the other. The numbers literally do not lie. So, yeah, I mean, you can argue that all you want, but quite frankly, it's just impossible to actually argue it. You're just wrong if you think that digital looks better. It just doesn't. It never will. As long as 25 megabit per second is the common service in the United States, it will never look better than it does now. So, yeah, and currently digital video, streaming video, does not look good enough to even compare to Blu-ray. So, Blu-ray, higher quality, no question, flat out is proven. You can't freaking argue that. I'm sorry, you just can't. So my number two, after I rant so much about the first one, the number two reason that Blu-ray is better than digital is because what if the internet drops? What happens when either your internet just gets cut off entirely for whatever reason. Sometimes the internet drops out for 5, 10 minutes or whatever. Or if the connection quality just drops from like really high to, let's say, 5 to 10 megabit per second, and 5 to 10 megabit per second just isn't fast enough, so it just stops streaming. You get buffering, you know what I mean? What happens then? Well, you can't watch your movie. Your movie stops playing. Usually, it'll be downloaded enough that you'll be able to watch for like another minute or two before it stops playing. But eventually, if the internet doesn't come back or get better, it's going to stop playing. It's going to start buffering, and you're not going to be able to actually watch the movie that you want to watch when you want to watch it. Well, guess what doesn't happen with Blu-ray? Any of that. Blu-ray, you don't even need the internet to watch a Blu-ray. You can use a Blu-ray player that isn't connected to the internet, and it will work perfectly fine. Even if you do have a Blu-ray player that's connected to the internet, you shouldn't have any problems whatsoever watching a Blu-ray if you don't have internet access for whatever reason. So, yeah, I mean, on that front, Blu-ray is better simply because you can watch it whenever you want to without having any issues. Now, some people might say, well, what if the power goes out? Well, if the power goes out, then even if you did have an internet connection, you don't have an internet connection then. So that's really a moot point on that end, because quite frankly, there's no real comparison to make. The internet being out is not the same thing as the power being out, because if the power is out, nobody can do anything with any kind of digital anything. If the internet is out, I can still watch my Blu-ray, but you can't watch your freaking digital copy. All right, reason number 3. Reason number 3 is buffering is not a problem. So even if your internet does not die out, even if it just slows down or whatever, something like that, if your internet slows down and it just can't download the video fast enough to stream it to you in a high enough quality, then you're either going to suffer from buffering problems, or it's going to automatically lower the quality of the video you're watching so that you're not even watching in high definition anymore. So, yeah, when it comes to buffering, not really a problem with Blu-ray. You'll never have to deal with buffering. And now some people will say, but what about if you get a scratch and it just stops playing? Fair enough. But unlike with buffering, where there's not really anything you can do to fix that problem in terms of, like, unless you get better internet service, even if you complain about it to the right people at your cable company, chances are nothing's actually going to get fixed. Nothing's actually going to get better, because the problem isn't necessarily, it's usually not with the actual devices that you're using. It's with the fact that so many people are trying to access the same internet at the same time, and usually people are trying to watch and stream movies at the exact same time, and as a result, the quality of service just drops off. No matter what you do, no matter how good your internet service provider is, it doesn't matter. It happens to literally everyone. So there's not really much you can do about that. However, if you have a Blu-ray and it gets a scratch, there are these things called disc resurfacers. And if you get a really good one, to be fair, you have to pay like upwards of $100 to get a good one that really works. But if you get a good disc resurfacer, you can repair any disc that might have any issues that would cause playback problems. And honestly, I've only had a few Blu-ray discs that ever had that problem, because Blu-ray discs have an anti-scratch, scratch-resistant coating on them that makes them even better than DVD. And let me just give you an example with the scratch-resistant coating. I picked up a game. Now, this is just a game. It's not actually a movie, but it was a game for the PS3, right? Got it from GameStop, and I brought it home, and before, I didn't even look at the disc, and I guess they didn't look at the disc either. So I brought it home before I even saw the disc, and then when I took it out of the case, I realized, oh, there's literally a huge, gigantic scratch on this disc. And when I say scratch, I mean somebody had probably taken like a freaking screwdriver like this and just dug into it. That's what it looked like happened. I don't know what the hell actually happened, but it legit looked like somebody had intentionally tried to destroy this disc. So I don't know what the story was behind that, but I ended up getting a extremely damaged disc. But just for the fun of it, because I said, you know what, this is a Blu-ray. I know Blu-ray has that anti-scratch, that scratch-resistant coating, and I know it's just a better technology in general, better physical media in general than others. Let's just see. Let's just see what happens without doing any kind of repair on it whatsoever. So I put it in the PS3, and it played the game. Now, to be perfectly fair and considerate, to consider all angles here, it only played for like the first half of the game, and then I got halfway through, and it stopped working. And at that point, I took it back, demanded a refund. But it was an interesting little, a test to do to find out that apparently somebody can literally dig the actual disc out, like dig it out with some piece of metal or something like that, dig out actual data from the disc, and it'll still work. It'll still play to a certain point, and at that point, it won't play anymore because there's a huge piece of data missing from the freaking disc physically. But it's important to note that it's worth noting that these discs are so good. Blu-ray discs are so good at what they do that you can get one that's really damaged and it'll still work to a certain point. So if you're talking about one that has a few little scratches on it, well, first of all, it's got the anti-scratch coating, the scratch-resistant coating. So chances are those scratches will literally just come off if you rub some cloth on it, But if it doesn't come out, it's probably not going to affect playback at all. I've only ever had a few issues with Blu-rays. I have thousands of Blu-rays. I have purchased thousands of Blu-rays in my entire life. And throughout the course of buying all these Blu-rays, I'm confident that I can say that I've only had issues with about 5, maybe that many. That's a rounded guess. It might be fewer than 5. I can think of like 1 or 2 off the top of my head, and I'm trying to be fair by saying maybe it was more. But quite frankly, most Blu-rays, you're not going to have an issue with them playing. And that gets me to my next point about Blu-rays. Point 4. Blu-rays last a long freaking time. Now, if you remember DVDs, there are still DVDs from like the early 90s that will play, but they might have some scratches on them. You go in like a used, like a thrift store or something like that, and you buy a DVD that came out in the late 90s, and it's used and it has scratches on it, but it'll still play. Some DVDs experience disc rot, but not all of them. Some of them have issues, but not all of them. Point is, you can go and get a DVD from like 20 years ago now, 20 years old, and it'll still play. And quite frankly, we're getting to the point where some of those DVDs, even those that still play, are not going to be playing anymore. They're not going to work anymore. At most, I think you can expect, if you're like really careful with them and you only watch your movies a few times, you can expect the average DVD to last for like 20, 25 years, right? I think that's a fair estimate. Maybe more. We'll see as the time goes by, right? But I've had a few DVDs in my collection that, after repeated watchings, after repeating viewings, got scratched up enough that they didn't play anymore. So that did happen with DVD. It's not going to happen with Blu-ray. Blu-ray is designed to be even better than DVD. And like I said, you can find DVDs today that were made 20 years ago that still play. So if a DVD can last for 20, 25 years or more, you gotta figure a Blu-ray can last for like 40, 50, maybe even 60 years because the scratch resistant coating is just that damn good. And quite frankly, I have Blu-rays that I got when I just first started collecting that still play. They're perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with them. So these are movies that you get to have for life. Blu-ray discs are something that it's an investment because you're investing in something that you think, thinking maybe I want to watch this again at some point in my life. Because literally you can own them for the rest of your life and be fairly confident that even if you come back to it when you're 75 or 80, it's still going to work. So at that point, with physical media, you have to say, well, if it's that kind of thing where you're literally going to own it for the rest of your life, then why not? Why wouldn't you do that? That makes absolute sense to invest in something like that. If you're confident that you're going to want to watch this movie again once, twice, maybe even, then why not go ahead and get the Blu-ray? Even if you don't want to watch it right now, just get the Blu-ray, and then when you do want to watch it, you'll have it. It's on your shelf. Just go grab it anytime. 20 years from now, just go grab it. That to me is a huge bonus that you don't necessarily have with digital, because with digital, they have been known to take movies away. I guess the most recent example of that would be the Disney Movies Anywhere thing. Now, they allow you to move it to the new service, which is just called Movies Anywhere, right? But it's getting to the point now, I believe the cutoff is like this week. And if these people who haven't already transferred their Disney movies over to Movies Anywhere, if they don't get around to it, Disney's just going to cut them off and say, well, your movies are gone now. They paid for access to these digital movies that they're no longer going to have access to. And that's not even the first example of that that's ever happened or anything like that. This has happened several times already. People have bought things, bought digital movies online, and then had their access to those movies revoked. So it's not the first time, and it will not be the last time, and they're just going to keep doing it. And another, like, if you want to take streaming video like Netflix into account, then say a movie that you like is on the Netflix service right now. You know it's not always going to be there. You know it's not, because they're going to lose the right to stream that on their service at some point. And when they do, maybe that's the time that you actually wanted to watch that movie. Oh, I can't watch it anymore because it's not on Netflix anymore. And you get on Netflix's case when the problem really is that the actual company who owns the movie is asking for too much damn money, and Netflix isn't willing to pay it. And they shouldn't pay it because usually they're asking for way too freaking much money. But yeah, I mean, I'm very forgiving of Netflix on that front, by the way, but it's something that you're going to have to deal with when it comes to streaming media. The movie that you love that you might want to see at some point, but not right now, you might go back and want to watch it at some point and then find out it's not there anymore. It's there now, but it won't be there in the future. That never happens with Blu-ray. It's there now, and when you go back to find it 20 years from now, as long as you don't lose it, it'll still be there. If you keep it on a shelf, it'll still be there. So, never going to have a problem. Point number 5 is that Blu-rays are very affordable. And when I say very affordable, I mean I can pretty much guarantee you that 90% of the Blu-rays that I've picked up have been between $5 and $10. Most of them have probably been less than $5. If I were to do like a spreadsheet just to figure out, like, okay, I paid this much for this movie, this much for that movie, I've got 1,000 movies on Blu-ray. It would take me forever to do that. But I'm pretty confident that if I did that and just tried to average out the amount of money that I paid for all my Blu-rays, it would probably be between $7 and $8 per title. I'm going to guess, being fair, $7 to $8 per Blu-ray that I own. So at that point, is that really too much to pay? I don't think it is too much to pay, Because if you go on a service like Vudu or Amazon, they'll charge you that much for a movie to rent it sometimes, let alone own it. If you want to own it, well, that might cost you $15 or $20. And again, what is ownership when they can just revoke your right to watch it whenever the heck they feel like it, whenever they, for whatever reason, lose access to it? Oh, we're switching a service over, so, and you didn't switch it over fast enough, so you don't get to watch the movie you paid for. Guess what never happens with Blu-rays, which, by the way, are cheaper in most cases than digital movies? You never have to deal with that. You never have to deal with revoked access. You never have to pay. I guess you can't say you never have to pay, but when you pay $15 to $20 for a Blu-ray, usually, or at least in my case, it's because it's like a Criterion or it's like a specialty label or something like that. So you're actually getting more than you normally would. So when it comes to affordability, I feel like Blu-ray is a cheaper and better option than digital. So, yeah. Point six. The value of Blu-rays can increase over time. Not always, but in some cases it can. I literally just looked up a movie that I found that I've been wanting to get on Blu-ray for quite some time. Airheads. You guys might remember Airheads. Some of you might not have even realized that came out on Blu-ray, but it did. We got a listing and everything. It was on Amazon for quite some time. Airheads got a Blu-ray release, but it was a very, very limited Blu-ray release, and I don't think it sold very well, because if it did, it wouldn't be out of print now. And it's out of print, which means you can't buy it anywhere anymore. It's no longer sold anywhere anymore. They only made probably one print run of it, of maybe like 5,000 copies probably, and that was it. I don't know if you can believe it or not, but Airheads on Blu-ray, look it up right now on Amazon if you want to. When I just looked at it, it's about $250 freaking dollars. All right, $250 for Airheads on Blu-ray. I looked at that and I'm just like, yeah, there's no way in hell I'm paying that much. Another one that I've been actually wanting to get is as good as it gets on Blu-ray. Unfortunately, at least here in the States, it was never released on Blu-ray anywhere else other than Twilight Time, and Twilight Time had a deal where they only were allowed to do a 3,000 print run, so it's limited to 3,000 print, and it's sold out, so they don't have any more, which means if you want it, you're going to have to pay collector's prices. And you go look that up on eBay. Somebody has one up on eBay right now for $150. $150 freaking dollars. There's similar stories with the Criterion, some of the Criterion Blu-rays that went out of print. I can't remember what that one is called that Quentin Tarantino loved so damn much. Chungking Express. Chungking Express is out of print and usually goes for like between $100 and $150 on Blu-ray. So, yeah, those are examples of things that were once available for between $20 and $30 on Blu-ray and are now impossible to find for less than $100, typically. So, I mean, say what you will about Blu-ray if you don't think it's worth the money, but I do think it's worth the money because in a lot of cases, a surprising amount of cases, if these Blu-rays go out of print and they don't go back in print at any point in time, the value just skyrockets because there's no other way to get it. So what are you going to do? There's only a limited number of them out there, and once there's a limited number of something out there, the value, bam, through the roof. So you really, like I said, you're talking about this as an investment. This is an investment. These things, a lot of the things I'm looking at over here behind my back over here on the shelf are going to go out of print at some point. And at that point, they will begin to skyrocket in value. And like I said before, it's not like they're going to just stop working. The scratch-resistant coating, high quality, these things will last pretty much a lifetime. So if I ever, run along hard times for whatever reason and I need money, well, money right behind me. Money in the bank. Guaranteed. Yeah, it's an investment, really. You're talking about something that if you ever have any issues with money, it's sitting on your shelf, man. It's sitting on your shelf. And I'll just throw in one last point. This point is true about DVDs as well. I guess so that makes it 7. 7 reasons. 7 reasons. I just decided 7 reasons. I'll still put it up as 6, but whatever. If you made it this far, here's your 7th reason. Special features. Now I know that some digital copies now you're getting some special features on them, but for the most part, a majority of digital films, like digital streaming films, do not have any special features. So if you're at all interested in the filmmaking process, then the special features mean something. And most Blu-rays have at least a few special features. I will say that when it comes to special features, DVD was the heyday. DVD, you got boatloads of special features. Blu-ray, you might as well cut that in half. You get half the amount of special features on Blu-rays that you got on DVDs. But the big thing about Blu-rays is it lasts for freaking ever. So say what you will about Blu-ray, man, but I think it's a way better platform than digital. So many things you don't have to worry about with Blu-ray that you do have to worry about when it comes to digital. So, yeah, I don't think I'm stupid for buying all these things, because I know when the time comes, if I run out of money and I need to get some money in my pocket, I can sell these and make some money. Easy peasy. And I know that when I want to go watch a movie, I don't have to worry about buffering. I don't have to worry about whether or not my internet's getting cut off. I don't have to worry about service interruptions. I don't have to worry about any of that crap. I don't have to worry about a movie not being on Netflix anymore. I don't have to worry about my access to a movie on Vudu or whatever being revoked, or movies anywhere, wherever I choose to watch my movie online. I don't have to worry about any of that because I have the disc. And the disc will always be there for me, like a friend. Those are the reasons that I think Blu-ray is better than digital. Let me know what you think. Do you think I'm off my rocker? Do you think I've made some good points? Do you think my points are full of crap? Whatever you think, feel free to comment down below. Catch you later, guys. Peace.